So I thought I'd do a debrief of our recent launch, our launch for the Product Launch Formula coaching program. So short story, the launch absolutely crushed. We did really, really well. In it, we had all kinds of changes, all kinds of innovations. So I've been launching this product pretty much every year since 2005. The launch stuff evolved radically over those years, but this year we have probably more changes than I can remember in history. And most of them went really, really well. And I thought I'd share some of those innovations, some of the changes, some of the things we did that worked well, and also like what I see happening, what they mean for the industry. So normally I do this kind of debrief for my high-end coaching programs and my mastermind groups. And, in those groups, I'll go really deep and peel back all the numbers. I'm going to condense this a little bit for you and the reason I'm going to do this publicly is I've got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because recently, right before I went into my launch, there was a prominent person in the industry who had a launch that didn't go so well and then ended up putting out a video that said, I don't think launches are working so well anymore. I don't think we can take people directly into a $2,000 offer and going on and on. And I don't know, to me that the video felt a little self-serving and it didn't feel accurate to me. So I've got a little chip on my shoulder about that because the businesses I've been tracking, and there's about 70 or 80 businesses that I'll track pretty closely, people in my mastermind groups, my high-end coaching, and they have been having really good results. We've been seeing some just mind-boggling results with their launches. Now, I will tell you, I'm not Pollyanna, the land of milk and honey. Don't put my head in the sand. I think a lot of online businesses have been facing headwinds in the last 18 months or so. A lot of things have gotten harder in this industry, but I've just seen some amazing launches. And as I went into my launch, I'm like, maybe launches are dead, but you know what? I've sort of been hearing that refrain since actually the first time someone put out like a white paper about that was in January of 2007. And I think like Mark Twain said, the rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated. So I had confidence in my launch, but we were really heads up. We were really on it. We were trying to identify what we needed to do different. And one of the things, this is your key point number one, is people want what they want when they want it. So we've seen this trend in recent years of launches that use live broadcasts, really lengthy, long live broadcasts that went for 3 and 4 hours. And there was a launch a few months ago that had, I think, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of those really long broadcasts. And frankly, it's something I guess you could blame on me. It was an innovation I started doing within our launches in 2018, where we were doing longer form live broadcasts as our pre-launch content. And they worked really well then. But this is a change I started to see in our show-up numbers on our live broadcasts. And I was hearing about it in our groups, in my high-end groups, that it was getting harder and harder and harder to get people to show up. So I'm like, okay, well, let's not fight that trend. Let's go back to video, back to the future. It's another thing. I pioneered really beautiful cinematic video back in 2014, I think it was. And so we went back and we used video for our first 2 pieces of pre-launch content. But we didn't just use any old video. What we did was we released 2 lessons, and each lesson was almost like an entire season. It was a series of 8 to 10 videos. And those videos were anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes each. I mean, it's super consumable. And it's hard to compare year over year because last year our event was live, our launch was live. So we were really comparing back to 2018. So it's a little bit of a rocky comparison, but our consumption was at least double the consumption of our videos. And we're measuring from people from opting in to going and watching all that entire lesson compared to watching the first video when it was one big video back in 2018 was double or more. And so we released lesson 1, then we released lesson 2. Now I'm going to go down here and look at my notes to make sure that I got everything. The videos were short, they were bingeable, they were easy to go back to and watch. So each lesson total about 35, 37, 38, 39 minutes, somewhere in there. We worked really hard to make them as short as possible, and we split them into those short chunks. Now, we got this idea directly from someone in our mastermind group. It was an amazing idea, and it just created so much consumption, literally double or more the consumption rate. So instead of fighting that, let's go and do long live broadcasts. We put in the work, created a video, made it super consumable because people want what they want when they want it. Created super high engagement. Okay, that is key number 2, is we went hard after engagement. We really worked. First of all, we had those super consumable videos. We followed the sideways sales ladder. That's what I teach in Product Launch Formula. We followed it to the T, including we didn't leave out the opportunity. We covered the opportunity. That's the first thing to do in the sideways sales ladder, which is the first thing we do in the Product Launch Formula. Then we followed the problem solution path. These are the core principles that we teach within Product Launch Formula. We went for the engagement, but it wasn't just that. We also had, when people opted in, we invited them to reply to our confirmation email. And when they did that, then we said, reply to this and we'll send you this special report. And when we used a little fancier copy than that, but that created over 10,000 people emailing to us and having us email back to them. Now, we haven't dug through the numbers yet to see if our conversions were higher for those folks yet. There's a lot of data in a launch, and we just closed our cart a few days ago, so we don't know that. But I have a feeling we greatly increased our engagement, but we also helped our email deliverability. Because when someone opens your email and then replies to you, and then you reply back to them, the ESPs just love to see that, and that really helps your deliverability. We also created what we called expansion packs. So this was additional content that unlocked if people watched an entire lesson. So again, we were incenting the consumption, and people loved the expansion packs. I was also posting behind the scenes on Instagram. We invited people to join us on Instagram. We also gave a bonus video for people who opted in for texts. So we were coming from every direction we could think of, frankly. We also had a Facebook group. The Facebook group, we couldn't get distribution from Facebook. The people that were in it were active, but we're going to be reevaluating whether we're going to use the Facebook group. We're going to be taking a very close look at that for next year. So that was the second point, was the engagement was critical. Look, I was in there personally answering every comment read every comment that came in, and I responded to every comment. It's these little things that create engagement. And that leads to key number 3, which was earn them showing up live. So what we did, standard product launch formula, 3 pieces of pre-launch content. The first 2 were video lessons. Each one was a little mini series, 8 to 10 videos. Then we went into our third piece of pre-launch content. That was a live broadcast. And we earned the show up by keeping them by getting them engaged with those first 2 pieces of pre-launch content. So we had super high show up rate on our live broadcast. So that combination of on-demand video for early on in the pre-launch leading into live, it was a magic combination. I've got that idea directly from Ann in one of our masterminds, who's been pioneering that for the last year or so. So we went deep on that, and it was just super high show up rate, super high energy. Another thing we experimented with was turning off the live chat during the broadcast. This is another innovation that came out of my mastermind. And the idea is that people love that, to see all the comments flying by, but it's super distracting. It is super, super distracting. And so we had experimented with this. Dylan and our group had experimented with this, and it seemed to be super cool. So we turned off those comments. It felt to me, people could still leave the chat comments. I could see it, the people on my team could see it. We could respond to their questions. We could respond to their comments. They just weren't watching everyone else's comments. It felt like it created a way more engaged audience that was less distracted. And I think the results speak for themselves. The broadcasts were amazing. We opened cart in that third broadcast, and the open cart was like the best opening cart broadcast we've ever had. It was freaking awesome. Okay, so key number 4 was we had a really good, really amazing tested offer. So I have this saying that you can't outlaunch a bad offer. And so, in other words, have a good offer. So we had a great offer. I mean, we've been selling the product launch from the coaching program since 2005. It's the longest running training in this space, period, full stop. There's nothing out there that's been on the market for so long and has been selling it like this. And of course, we've innovated over and over and over, but we've got a great offer. We know the offer, we obsess about the offer, but we made it even better. We added in a big AI component. That again was something that was someone in our mastermind really pushed on us. And, we've been tracking this so closely. We've been tracking AI for 2 years, but in the last 8-9 months since ChatGPT, it's just gotten so red hot. And we've seen that within our groups. And so we leaned heavily into that, and we added a big AI component to the offer. And there's another thing. I like to say that, and I'll probably hit this on the next point as well, is that no great launch is created in a vacuum. So some people think I'm really good at this stuff. I've got a pretty good track record. But the reality is that when I'm going into a launch, I'm always looking to bounce my ideas off of people, check in on the offer, check in on the plan for the pre-launch, check in on the plan for the open cart. Again, I'm leaning deep into my mastermind groups. I'm getting all kinds of feedback. You can't create at this level in a vacuum. You need other people, and other people that's like not your parents or your best friend or your spouse, unless those people really know your market really, really well. They have to be people that understand this world and understand marketing. The next key, I think it's key number 5, I've lost count here, is the pre-briefs and debriefs. And that's sort of what I was just talking about, is that we debrief. The idea of pre-briefs, which is basically taking your work and running it by people before you bring it out to the market to get outside opinions. Learned, smart outside opinions of people that know this industry, that know launches, that know marketing, that hopefully know your marketer, can at least put themselves in the place of your avatar. Pre-briefs they're huge. No great launch is created in a vacuum. And then debriefs. Always, that's what I'm doing here, is I'm doing a super condensed, super quick debrief, but always looking back and saying, what could we have done differently? And what went well that we want to do more of? So again, the show up rate, we started to see that started to slip. That started to slip a year ago, and it started to accelerate. And I know it wasn't just for us. I know I could just, like I said, I'm tracking those 70 or 80 businesses, and I know those folks are seeing it as well. So we're okay. We got to do something different. What can we do different now that it's no longer like back in the pandemic? Anyone could get people to show up on a Zoom. It's gotten a little bit harder. It's gotten a lot harder. So what can we do? How can we change that? And, let's see. So we stayed nimble. We actually modified our plan going through. In our open cart, we had a second live broadcast with a whole different hook, a whole different angle. So if people didn't show up in that first one, then they're going to come in on that second one. And then we did a closing broadcast with, this was a big innovation. We used to close at midnight Pacific time. So that's like 1 a.m. here for me in Colorado. Well, we looked at this and we're like, what is the peak of of intimacy is when you're on a live broadcast. And we wanted to line up that peak of intimacy with the close. So we actually closed cart on a live broadcast. And instead of doing it at 1 a.m. Colorado time or 3 a.m. Eastern time, we closed at 10 p.m. Eastern time, and we had just a phenomenal close. Again, another idea that came directly out of my mastermind. So that's a quick debrief of just a fantastic launch. One of our absolute best launches, maybe this decade. And it went really, really well for us. Lots of innovations, lots of things that worked, some things that didn't. Not sure about that Facebook group. And I know everyone's going to copy all of this, just like they copied me in 2020 when we made so many shifts, and 2018 when we went to live broadcasts, and 2015 when we went to fancy video. And that's okay, because we've gone through evolution after evolution, and it's just part of the game. I know back in 2010 when I started my first high-end mastermind, I wasn't creating it so much to make money. I was creating it to have a team around me, a team that was going to help me selfishly, help me stay ahead of the market. And what that's meant is, that was just the first group I created, and it's meant I've just created these groups that are absolutely freaking amazing, that allow me a bit of a crystal ball to see what's coming, because there's all these, like I said, 70 or 80 other businesses, and they're all working really hard. And they're all innovating, and we're all just sharing our best practices, what's working and what's not working. And so yeah, I'm really good at launches, and this is another one. What did I say? 17 multi-million-dollar launches in a row. I'm good at launches, but I'm also really great at forming awesome groups of people around me, and we just all move forward faster and better together. So one of the things, I've actually never had a sales process or a launch for these groups. It's all just been word of mouth. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to open up. We have a few spots available, and if you're interested, there's a fairly extensive selection process. But I'll put a link down below. You can go ahead and click that link. If you're established, you got a serious business, and you want to move forward quickly, you might want to take a look at the link down below. And hope you enjoyed the debrief, and let's go get in this week.